you realize how far you are down the journey when you start to see what others' dreams are that haven't really gone as far as you have down the journey. Like,
Insane, man. Yeah.
it's just really cool when you ask questions like, what's your number that you would exit your business with? And they're like, man, I don't really know. I've never really thought about it. It's still
This
a
is when
little
it gets good.
surreal.
Start dreaming again, kids, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tim Bratz, and every week I sit down with the top influential entrepreneurs in the country to discuss how to leave a true legacy in all things happiness, health, wealth, and wisdom. This is the Legacy Podcast.
All right, so let's dive in. Got my good buddy Chris Garrison here. Chris, great to have you, brother.
Good to be here, man.
Dude. So Chris is a blue-collar entrepreneur who started as a technician in a truck, moving all the way up to delegating his way to owning a 7-figure disaster restoration business. And after plugging into the right rooms, joining the right groups, joining a real estate mastermind, he started building a portfolio of rentals, Airbnbs, along with several other businesses. And he's a partner in Blue Collar Millionaire, which is a Facebook group that runs with over 200,000 members actively contributing into this group, all about blue collar businesses, trades businesses, and how to scale those things, how to refine those businesses, how to grow them, how to buy them, how to sell them, all those different kinds of things. So we're going to be diving into all that stuff today. And Chris has been a dear friend of mine for several years, dude. Super excited to have you on, bro.
Man, I appreciate it. It's an honor. Jumping into your mastermind, I think it was 4 years ago at this point, was definitely a turning point in my life. That was kind of my start of real estate journey, even though I don't own a bunch of apartments. And that was kind of what your class was about. It just kind of opened me up to realize that it was achievable when you have a good mentor that breaks it down at a 3rd grade level for anybody to understand. Now I'm able to have a bunch of single family rentals and looking at some really nice delayed gratification 15 years from now when debt's paid down. I look at more of a debt pay down and net worth build than a cash flow play for me, since I sit on the home service business side of things for
yeah, man,
cash.
For sure. And I think there's fallacies that you're going to get rich off of the cash flow of owning rental real estate. And after you've owned it for maybe 10 years, yes, that right. The income is insane. Yeah. But, with interest rates and expenses and all this other stuff and people trying to bring as little money down as possible, it's hard to cash flow positive properties right out of the gate. And so you got to have that long-term mentality. And, you said something just a moment ago of like, got in the room and I kind of, saw the bigger picture and really gained that confidence after coming and seeing what other people were doing. And I think that, people go out to different events, and I'm not talking about Commercial Empire necessarily, right. But I think Commercial Empire definitely falls in this category. But it's like, dude, it's not just for people who want to learn how to scale their real estate portfolio. It's just, dude, there's unquantifiable growth and unquantifiable rewards that you get from going out of these things just by borrowing belief, right? Exactly. Taking belief from what somebody else is doing in their business and being like, if this guy's crushing it in real estate, I could be crushing it in the trades. I could be crushing it with my disaster restoration business, right? And I think that borrowed belief of just being around people who are talking bigger and thinking bigger, and it rubs off on you. And just by osmosis of being in the room, there's this level of confidence that comes with it that you just attack life and business at a higher level.
Well, I mean, I feel like the 2 pillars of America's economy is built off of Main Street business owners and real estate. And it's 2 things that you got to have. Everybody has a need, and there's some business owner out there that's providing that service or product, and everybody needs a roof over their head. I remember the first, after I took your training course, Commercial Empire, and y'all had the boardroom, Legacy boardroom at that point, and y'all had the first summit. I met Kelly Garrett, and she was a business owner now in the real estate. And I immediately kicked it off with her and started having conversation, and it ignited my fire about my current business, because I was that typical entrepreneur getting shiny object syndrome. I'm doing some money over here, but man, I can get filthy rich over here if I get into real estate. All of the rich folks from real estate. And I kind of did that. I did that little, 360. I went from business ownership and then went over to real estate and then came back, because I realized like you said earlier, cash flow was not going to get me to the filthy rich, but 10, 15 years from now, absolutely, it was going to be massive. So I circled back around the business, and that's really where I solidified myself after I got that real estate bug out of my system. And I still do flips. We're still putting new rentals online every single year. We just started our Airbnbs last year to play with that and see how that's going. But very little of my attention goes to that aspect of it because I have a couple of studs that really help me on that side of the business to run it. And my focus stays on the active service-based businesses, blue-collar businesses, because that's what's generating the cash. That's what's building enterprise value. And I look at my real estate as my retirement fund.
I love that. I love that perspective. And I think, dude, I think everybody needs to have, that short-term money bucket, the midterm money bucket, the long-term wealth bucket. And, we're in the same boat, right? Like I have the coaching business and I have the media business and I have the software business and I have the property management business that pays the bills today. Right. And gives me a great lifestyle. And the real estate, I don't take a dollar off of the real estate, man. It all goes right back into the properties and gets reinvested or pays down debt and clears things out. And that is my long-term play as well. Like, we have like the midterm pops by taking acquisition fees. Right. And obviously the more things that we bring in-house for property management business grows. So it allows us to make a couple more bucks on that side. But, otherwise, man, I think you're on the right path, especially for somebody who comes from the business arena. Dude, stay in your lane. How many times do we see people just kind of get sidetracked? And you and I have done it 1,000 times too, of just chasing the shiny objects. And just stay in your lane. Let other people go and focus on what they do. You focus on what you do. By you staying in your lane, it compounds over time. And then you can take all that cash and now you've got options, right? Now you can always go buy real estate. Now you can always go buy more businesses. But like develop that core stockpile of cash in knowing and the skill set that comes along with that too.
We get several questions inside of Blue Collar Millionaire Facebook group, and they'll say, hey, I've got $10,000. I got $20,000 cash saved up. What should I go invest in? And if you'd have caught me 10 years ago, I probably would have said, go put it in some real estate, man. But now I'm like, hey, if that's all you've got saved up, invest it back into yourself and into your business, because once you have that thing humming and it's producing you, the holy grail, I think they said 1% of businesses get to $1 million in net profit. And so until you kind of get to that threshold, I feel like it should be constantly dumped into what's in your lane, because when you move in another lane, you're resetting the learning curve. And the learning, I've heard you talk about it many times, how it's a 5-year thing to master, because the hours that is involved in becoming a master on something. So earlier you asked, you was like, you're looking at life as in 10-year buckets, 10-year tranches, and the learning experiences that you get through that. And I would have to say in my 30s, that was really one of those takeaways, is if you will invest and get extremely focused, because I've been exposed to so many highly successful entrepreneurs in the last 7 years of this 30 to 40 age frame that I just left out of. And I see the ones that have huge success are the ones that were able to control that shiny object syndrome, that ADD, entrepreneurial ADD, and they stayed focused on their one thing. And because they focused on that one thing, they kept throwing fuel on it and it got massive. And that's why everybody's like, holy crap, look what you've achieved. You've done all of this. Well, it's because they didn't divert their attention. Multitasking is not really a thing. You got to put all your attention on whatever you're trying to make great. And if I know I would be even much further ahead if I would have done that. And I'm glad that I've got the real estate that I have. I'm glad that I've got the multiple businesses that I have. But if I would have focused on my core business, dude, I think it'd be a $50 million business today and worth so many millions because of the net that it was making and impacting lives. It could be life-changing wealth for my family. But
dude, I think that you hit on so many good things. I'm trying to like mentally unpack it. I'm taking notes while we're standing here. And so, one of the first things you said, hey, if somebody comes in with $10,000 in a blue collar millionaire, where should I invest it? And I think a lot of people, to your point, say, hey, let me go throw it at the stock market. Let me go throw it in crypto. Let me go throw it in real estate. And the reality is the highest and best and safest return on your investment. It's hard to quantify. It's not as quantifiable as a direct, dollar for dollar type of comparison, but it's the best investment you can ever make is in your own knowledge, right? Is in your own resources, in your own connections, your network, your community. And that pays dividends unlike anything I've ever seen. And then the second one you also hit on is in your own business. Imagine taking that 10 grand and putting it towards marketing dollars in your own business. You can't even compare it to what investing in somebody else's business would be because it's apples to oranges, right? And if you're working your business anyways, if you're not retired, then you might as well just keep on deploying into your own business. Understanding that you can grow. Now, there's probably some level of point of diminishing returns, or you're happy with where you're at, and then now it's time to go and deploy capital into different real estate or different other ventures. But there was a guy who spoke about a year ago at our friend Mark Evans' event, and he's the financial advisor who's got, I think he said he manages over $200 billion or something, average of 250 million per investor. He's only got like whatever it is, 40 some, I don't even know, something like that.
Insane.
And so he said out of all of his clients, average of $250 million each deployed with him. And he manages $40 billion of money. He said out of all of his clients, there wasn't one of them who diversified their way to wealth.
Yeah.
Every single one of them was laser focused at being the best in one thing, and they got wildly wealthy off of it. And then they took their money and now they keep their money. I think it's, it's a nonsense. You see it all plastered all over social media. It's like, well, the average millionaire has 6 different sources of income or what? Dude, no, they don't. The average retiree who's a millionaire has 6 different sources of income. But the person who's growing their business, dude, they have one thing and they are an absolute expert at it because of this compound effect that sets in.
Well, this is why you need to make sure so people move because they don't have confidence that the current vehicle they're in is going to take them to elite wealth. And so that's why they see someone that's already achieved it and they're like, oh, that's what I need to go do, resetting the learning curve. So what I say is, go find someone that's inside of your industry that has what you consider wealth, because now you're going to get that borrowed belief and it will give you the sticking power to stay in it. And we need that sticking power because when stuff gets hard, it's extremely hard to stay disciplined and still show up every day instead of looking at the grass is greener on the other side. But the grass is greener on the other side because there's more shit over there. And that is why the fertilizer is to be so green, right? So I think about Joe Polish's story. So my first business, carpet cleaning business, is how it started. And he was a carpet cleaner, struggling, went on a jet skiing event, and there was a multimillionaire there. And so the multimillionaire was sitting there chatting with him, and Joe started to share his story of how he was just a struggling carpet cleaning business owner. And so the guy said, well, is there anyone else that's inside of your industry that's making what you would consider good money? He sat there for a second and thought, and he was like, yeah, there's a couple of folks. And he said, well, you don't need to change businesses or industries because you're going to take those same bad habits over to this next one, and you're going to think that that's a bad industry. And then what I've realized is those bad habits is the fact that people don't understand how to market. As soon as you know how to identify who your customer is, where they spend their time, what their pain points are, and how to communicate with them so that you catch their attention, because we all use particular words. If we're in a crowd and I say real estate investors, you may not hear that in a crowd of people. But if I say Tim Bratz, you're going to hear it. Doesn't matter how loud it is. It's because I use the word that you identify with. And so if we can get our mindset and become good at marketing, and we can always have leads coming in, opportunities, then there's no reason why you would be sitting and looking at something else saying, oh, it's better over there. We do that because we don't have enough opportunity in our current vehicle. And that's because we don't have enough confidence to stick with it to start seeing the opportunities. So I would say get get the borrowed belief, find someone in your industry, because every industry's got somebody that's doing very good money. I mean, Kevin Marin, our friend that we both know, my partner in Blue Collar Millionaire, took it in gutter cleaning and made a multi-million-dollar business out of gutter cleaning. And everybody else would have been like, oh yeah, there's no way you're going to make more than $500,000 in gross revenue doing gutter cleaning. But this dude took it into multiple states because he stayed focused. So find a guy like that, get the borrowed belief, and then start to understand how to get your customers' attention, which is marketing. When you have plenty of opportunity, you don't even have to know how to sell well. You'll be able to close because you got enough numbers. And there's that mindset of abundance at that point. So that's my commission to everyone that sits there and says, hey, what do I need to get into? My current industry is not that great. I'm like, no, it is. You just haven't got great at marketing yet. When you
I love that, dude.
When you get that,
and marketing is the lifeblood of business.
yeah.
You know, I see businesses that, you know, when times get tough and things scale back. Actually, there's a crazy story about Post and Kellogg's. I remember watching like the Food That Made America.
Yeah.
And on the Food That Made America, they're talking about how Kellogg got started. Like Kellogg's was like the Kellogg brothers. One guy was a doctor and he was like very well known in Michigan. And like people with gut issues would go up to Michigan. They'd stay at his facility, and he took like corn and oats and grinded it up and essentially made granola and cereal out of it. And, you know, toasted it all up and then served it to his patients. And then they had these, you know, better development and were feeling better. And Post actually worked for at this facility. And so he's like, he leaves, takes that idea and starts commercializing it to sell it to the masses. Well, the Kellogg, the one brother of the Kellogg's is like, hey, we need to do this too. The doctor's like, no, 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 no. Eventually the facility like burned down, and the one brother who's like, we need to make it a business, bought everything and then turned it into a business. So we had that a lagging start over Post. Post already took this thing and started turning it into a multi-million-dollar business in the early 1900s. And what happened next was the Great Depression hit in 1929. Post had the vast majority of the market share, and Kellogg's was just like really small. Well, Post got ignorant, or not ignorant. They got confident and too cocky. And they said, hey, it's the Great Depression. Times are a little bit tight. Let's scale back our marketing efforts. And so because they already had so much market share, they scaled back their marketing efforts, and Kellogg's poured fuel on the marketing. They understood that was an investment that would pay dividends for a long, long time. And by the time the Great Depression ended, so 4 years later, by the time that happened, Kellogg's had 4 times the market share as Post, and Post has never been able to catch up. Post does a couple $1 billion a year today. Yeah. Kellogg's does something like $15 billion a year in gross revenue, all because of that shift that occurred during difficult times. Yeah. When you think, where can I cut costs? A lot of people go to marketing first. It should be the last thing that you cut out.
I had rather shave down my labor, because labor is going to be, on a service business, your biggest cost. I'd rather shave my labor down, increase my marketing, raise my prices, and still make more money. Most business owners never raise their prices. Same thing in real estate. Most landlords never raise their prices because they're too scared of losing a customer, a tenant. And in the process of that, they miss staying up with inflation. And it is amazing how much you will see where, like when I first started, I was doing rooms of carpet for $30 a room. And then I went to 40, then I went to 50, and then I went to 60, then I jumped to 90. And I just waited until I started feeling resistance. I don't want to close at 100%. If you're closing all of your quotes, every inbound lead is getting closed at 100%, you were too cheap. And you're not going to be valued as high of a value. And you're going to get the crud of the customers as well, the ones that are going to complain the most deferred maintenance portion of it. So as you raise your prices, you're also culling all of the customers you don't want. And then at that point, you're going to have the best customers that have the most maintenance involved, and you're working easier for your money while making a premium dollar. And you'll become known as the premium brand in your market when you do that. So it's, dude, there's so many levers that can be pulled. And if you don't have the knowledge and stay in the right rooms to where you can get this information and you can see what someone else is doing, you end up in just this ditch full of mud where your wheels are just spinning. And this is why you get burnt out. And this is why I pay well over 6 figures a year to be in masterminds, because it keeps me amped up, keeps me ready to rock and roll. I see so many people doing bigger things than me. It keeps me humble. It allows me to grab strategies from any industry. It doesn't have to be my industry to be able to grab strategies. Real estate, home service, blue collar, product sales, all of them have business mechanics that take place. They all have people, they all have a brand, they all have someone that's willing to pay for what they have to offer. And there's a fulfillment factor and there's a payment processing factor. So you can look at everything that produces an income, and you can look at their strategies in the marketing, in the fulfillment, or in the financial accounting side, and you can bring those over when you see they fit. So get out of the shell, pay some money to get into the right room so that you can make sure you're getting information. And if you don't have the money right now, podcast like this one right here. I listen to, I feel like Alex Hormozy, I soak his stuff up. Tommy Mello, because he's in the home service industry and he's got over a $200 million garage door business and he's also been bought out by private equity, but he still has a lot of his, investments inside of that company. So he's still on as CEO. I listen to those two people religiously when I'm at the gym, when I'm riding down the road, because I may not remember 90% of it. I may not remember 95% of it, but that 5% that it hits me in the moment and it sticks with me and I go back and implement, that 5% could produce me millions over the course of a decade.
This episode of the Legacy Podcast is brought to you by the Legacy Boardroom Mastermind. So our goal is to give as much free information away as humanly possible through all of our social media platforms and try to help people with their businesses, help people with their lives. We also have something for people who want more one-on-one attention, which is Legacy Boardroom. Legacy Boardroom is a board of directors for your business. If you are doing up to about $10 million a year in gross revenue, you're making some money, you got some good things happening, but maybe you can't afford a C-suite of executives, of a chief marketing officer, a chief operating officer, a chief investment officer, a chief human resources officer, and you need access to these fractional C-suite executives. That's what this was built for, at a fraction of the price of what you can find anywhere else in the marketplace. So it's my actual team who have built multiple 7 and 8 and 9-figure businesses and real estate portfolios that is available every single day of the week on these daily boardroom calls. So any questions that you have, you can hop on, ask questions about operations to my COO, ask questions about acquisitions to my CMO, ask questions about raising private money to my chief investment officer, or team building to my chief HR officer. So they're available for you 5 days a week. Any questions that you have, any hurdles that you're facing, anything that you need, these guys are available to help you break through any sort of barriers and take your business to the next level, so that way you can build a business that is designed to feed your life and your lifestyle. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more, check out legacyboardroom.com.
I love it, man. And that's what I was going to ask you is like, let's give actionable steps. So like number one would be free content. There's a ton of free content. Differentiating your way out of what's good, what's bad, what fits. How did you find Hormozy? How did you find the guy at the garage door company? Like, how did you find them, and how did you feel like and realize that they were the right people that you wanted to follow?
Yeah. So when you start going down the rabbit hole, you're going to start hearing in repetition certain names and certain groups. So I remember when I wanted to do real estate, I hopped on and started searching in Facebook and YouTube and on the podcast platform, iTunes, real estate podcast, real estate Facebook group. And then I got into what's the big single family? I'm losing it right now. Single family podcast.
Like Bigger Pockets?
Bigger Pockets. So I got into Bigger Pockets. And then I started following folks in my area that did real estate. And then one of them made a post about your commercial empire coming up. So that's what got me on the commercial empire. So these little stepping stones, as you start seeking out what you're looking for, new things will come into your path, and the community will vet those things for you. When you've got thousands of people saying, listen to Bigger Pockets, listen to Bigger Pockets, go attend Commercial Empire, join Legacy Family. Tommy Mello is the guy. Like, these names get mentioned because they are putting out good content, and then you go and you listen, and if it resides to you, with you, if it makes sense to you, then you start just absorbing it. And Bradley, he's about to be on your podcast. I've listened to his podcast quite a while. I've got all different. There's so many people that I've listened to, and sometimes I go in seasons and listen to them, and then I'll get on a different direction or a different strategy, and then I'll niche down into a particular strategy. You got to take care of yourself. Going back to taking your life in the tranches, in the decades. In my 20s, I learned I needed to take care of myself. I need to make sure that Chris is confident. I need to make sure that my environment around me is a conducive environment that lifts me up positively. And those very close relationships, like spouses and close relatives and stuff, they need to be pushing you towards your better version of you. And then in my 30s, that was that point of learning focus and learning that business is the machine, because that's where I've got my most experience, that's going to produce my income, and financial freedom needs to be found. Because when you get yourself taken care of, and then you get your finances taken care of, you have clearer thought, you can start to invent, you can start to brainstorm, and you can start to make an impact around the people and the environment around you. And when that starts happening, that's when life really starts to get a little easier, because the stress is removed, the anxiety goes away, and you're no longer sitting in a place of fear. And when you're not in that place of fear, you're going to be quicker to react, and you're going to find that opportunity is more readily available. When I was after my first marriage, when I got my divorce, I was extremely insecure for about 6 months there. And I was going out with the boys and trying to just get my life back together. And as soon as I got that level of security and confidence, where if a chick came up to me, I was like, it doesn't matter, I'll find me another one. As soon as I got that confidence, that's when I met my wife. And it happens like that. It's happened like that every time in my life. When I got a level of confidence that I could take it or leave it, that's when things started just becoming spectacular. The best deals came into my life. The best people came into my life. And it's because confidence attracts great things.
Well, that's what I was going to say, dude. That's a magnetizing type of energy that you're putting out there, right? When you go into a situation and you're postured up a little bit more, like, listen, I'd love for this to go through. At the same time, I don't need it. And I'm willing to walk away, and I'm happy with who I am and where I am and what I have going on. I'm thankful for all the things that I do have. Dude, you just show up different. You show up different to relationships. You show up different to business. You show up different to your team. You show up different with your buddies. It's just, and people can sense that energy. And then all of a sudden you start bringing that, attracting those good things into your life. I think, to your point again, that whole focus, and, we were talking offline of what did you learn in your 20s, right? I've been compartmentalizing at 20s and then 30s, and then now I'm going in my 40s, and we'll turn 40 this year. But you had mentioned really that focus and the compound effect and the compounding efforts. And dude, I think that's one of those things people try to beat. They try to find a faster track, try to shortcut it in some capacity. And the reality is, man, what I found in life is everything's going to take time, and you need to understand and appreciate that it's going to take time, and it takes time to compound. The longer you're doing it, the easier it's going to get. And the hardest part is at the very beginning. And you got to realize that, hey, this compound effect isn't going to set in until you're 5, 7, 10 or longer. And it's going to be amazing then. And dude, just sit back and enjoy the ride while you're going through it, right? And figure out how to distract yourself in the meantime of doing things that you love with people that you love. while you're letting the business compound, and just be okay with it compounding, because we live in this society, man, of like instant everything, right? You got instant rice, you got instant pudding, you got fast food, you got fast and instant success. And the reality of the situation is it's not real, right? The Hawk Tuah girl, dude, not everybody has a story where they can get picked up outside of a bar and then all of a sudden get a podcast and all these endorsements and all this, dude,
That's a
for
lottery
stupid
ticket.
stuff. But it's become normalizing of that, right? Like the kids these days, my kids want to be influencers because they think but it's such a spiraled, it's not reality, right? It's so spiraled out of what real life and real world is like that it's almost hard, like bringing them back down, but also you don't want to ground them too much, and then they don't think big and all this other stuff. But it's the reality of, you know, you see Mr. Beast, and he's on there. He's like, all right, everybody put your finger on the table, and whoever is the last one to move their finger from the table wins $1 million. Like that doesn't value, like these kids have no idea what $1 million. Hey, it's only $1 million. Who cares about it? Well, it's like when you actually have to work for it.
That's right.
And it'll be interesting to see how these kids kind of progress and grow over their lives, and if they actually put some effort towards, you know, having some tenacity and grit into moving things forward in a real business. What does that look like? So at the same time,
the
what's that?
backstory is always going to be the reality check. Mr. Beast has a backstory. And that's where I'm like, when anybody is like, look what he's done, and all he's doing is giving away money. I was like, dude, you need to research his backstory, because his backstory was a grind. It wasn't always a hit like that. I think it was
exactly.
Like, 4
Dude,
years.
how long has he been making content before he has 1 billion views per video, right? It's not, that is not, but they only see the today, and making sure that people look in the past as opposed to just what's happening right now. Dude, people aren't better than you. They're not, you know, smarter than you, or they're just further along, right? They're further along down the road. They've gotten more no's, they've gotten more kicked in the crotch and punched in the teeth and all the other things that come with it, and they just never stopped. And at the same time, I want to talk about how you guys have differentiated yourselves with the Blue Collar Millionaire group. Because, dude, how old is that group? 2-3 years old?
It's about 3 years old, maybe 3.5 now. Yeah.
So 3 years ago, you sat in a mastermind and people were like, oh, well, you should grow your social media influence. And you're like, well, there's a lot of social media influencers out there. And you guys had the idea of like, let's create Blue Collar Millionaire and just help trades businesses and blue collar businesses scale and understand marketing and sales and accounting and finance and HR and operations. And genuinely gave a shit, genuinely showed up, tried to deliver value, always led with value. And look at the compound effect that has occurred in just 36 months. Dude, I couldn't imagine what this looks like for you guys if you stay on this track in another 36 months, let alone getting to where you guys are today. So how did you differentiate yourself going through that process?
I remember when the goal was 10,000 members. That was the first goal. You know, here's what, to differentiate ourselves. We're the only community that I'm aware of that you can hop on it, and you're not going to scroll through there and see a bunch of trolls just hating on people. Like you can, and it's because we delete their asses. We're like, see you later. We didn't build this for you, obviously. And so we make sure that it's in a very positive educational environment. So people sit there and they put their questions in. And then if someone tries to come up under and hate or undermine and just undermine them, then it's immediate deletion, banned. There's no questions, no warnings. So that's one thing that really allowed us to create this positive environment. And then also we make sure that the questions are engaging. We don't let every question come in because some people don't know how to use a search bar. So the same questions get asked over and over and over again. So when we see that it's already been answered 20 times inside of the group, we just send them a decline and we explain why, and we let them know, hey, please use a search bar. There's plenty of information already here. This keeps engagement high. So when someone comes in and starts scrolling through and they see 58 comments underneath this post, they hop on that post and start reading the comments, compared to the post that's got one comment or maybe no comments and just a like underneath it. So people don't like to be the first one to comment. and they don't think it's worth their time and attention if they don't already see a community involvement around a particular post. So those are probably two of the biggest things that allows our community to stand apart. But the backstory of that community was, I got in, I took your commercial empire. Mark Evans came and sat there and spoke at it. And then I started following Mark Evans. This is all social media and why you should leverage it. Because I found out about you from Facebook post of one of your prior members that was inside of your mastermind making a post, hey, this training's coming up. So got exposed to Mark, start following Mark. Mark says, hey, I'm doing this jet experience, 10 grand. Bro, I did not have 10 grand to just throw off on a jet. Matter of fact, it was coming to your mastermind and I'd already joined it. So I rerouted my flight up to get on the jet. And I remember when he called me, I was like a fangirl. He was like, hey, this is Mark. And I was like, this is Mark. I got all silly and I was like, hold on, get your composure. It's just a dude. So we sit there and have a conversation. He's like, yeah, I think you'll be a good fit on the jet. And I said, man, you don't have to sell me anymore. I know if I get on this jet with another 11 entrepreneurs that can afford to pay 10 grand to get on this jet, something has to happen spectacular. Nothing spectacular happened while I was on the jet. Okay. It was just a plane ride with good conversation. I did get to see Mark put some jewelry on from a custom jeweler. And besides that, that was the only thing that was a little wild. And did the event, got back. And then I saw where he offered his mastermind, his lower level mastermind. And so I hopped into his mastermind. And not long after that, he had a conversation with Kevin Marin that was in his upper mastermind that you guys are in. And he said, you should reach out to Garrison. I think that's who you're looking for. And Kevin had that idea of blue collar millionaire. And he wanted to just share the journey like if he was talking to his 20-year-old self. And Kevin's in his 50s now. So when he mentioned it to me, I was like, absolutely, man. I've been trying to do this thing on my own. And I had a little thing called Bigger Vision and started a podcast. And it's because I knew if I could get influence on social media, eyeballs would be the currency, as Austin Rutherford says, and I would have a ton of opportunity. And so when he said, would you like to join? I said, absolutely. We came together. And I've heard you say, there's two things that you should focus on when you're putting content out. One is going to be, maybe three things. There's education, there is entertainment, and there's inspiration. And I was like, there's always someone 2 steps behind you on your journey. And there's always 2 steps in front of you on the journey. And you should have a hand in front and a hand behind. Someone you should be helping, and then you should be looking at the one so that you can keep progressing every day of your life. And I looked at where I was at, and I didn't feel like I had a massive accomplishment, but I said, somebody is behind me and they can learn from me. Kevin is ahead of me, and those folks that I can't teach because they're above me, he'll be able to speak down to. And so we started it 3 years later, man. We got a massive community. We got a private coaching group called Boardroom Elite. We've got around 40 members, business owners inside of that, anywhere from $500,000 revenue to about $5 million in revenue that they're doing. And we just talk about the everyday practical strategies that we do in our businesses that are working, and we share. And I pick up great strategies, tips, tricks from the members that are paying to be in a group.
Isn't that the beauty of having an organization? It's like, well, first of all, you feel this responsibility to stay on top of your own game, right? So you're listening to more podcasts, you're reading more books, you're networking and hanging out in big rooms. So that way you can deliver that value to your organization, which is amazing. And then at the same time, dude, you're just having conversations and somebody's like, dude, have you tried this app? Have you tried this software? Have you talked to this person? I know so-and-so. And then all of us, like, you start learning, and you know, as much as you give, man, you get back, which is amazing. And in self-interest, dude, give as much as you possibly can. If everybody just gave and gave and gave, can you imagine what that would look like of the world that we live in, you know, instead of everybody trying to take? If they understood that concept of the more you give, the more you get, and you don't just get what you get many times more than what you give. And it's powerful, man. Once you understand that abundance concept, then you almost try to outgive, right? And overgive and just give as much as you possibly can. So that way, you know, the impact and you know, that it makes.
Life-changing. I like how you say it. You say, look, you standing in sunshine, me standing in sunshine, it's not taking any of my sunshine away when we're standing out there together. And I remember hearing that about 4 years ago from you, and I thought, what an amazing way to put that into a visual concept of having an abundant mindset. And when you do that, that giver's gain, that law of reciprocity kicks in, and you really do start seeing it come back. I mean, one of the businesses that I'm in is because of doing that group, that mentoring group. And one of those guys was W-2, ready to own his own business. He did the entire journey, put the work in. We got to see his resume and works over the next 8 months. And when he started getting to the finish line of buying the business, he was like, I really would like some help financially and some mentoring in the business so that it can be the best it can be and grow to be as big as it needs to be. And that's when me and Kevin plugged in, and this business is turning into a national business and has got a large opportunity for massive exit in the next 3 to 5 years. It's the biggest business I'm a part of right now.
But let's talk about this. Let's talk about, because dude, you come from the world of working hard, right? Your dad was an entrepreneur. I know I've heard you tell stories. He worked 80 hours a week.
Yep.
My dad, dude, there wasn't a time growing up that my dad didn't have at least 3 jobs at one time, right? He was a full-time cop. He had a part-time business. He would teach school at one of the local community colleges. Like, he always had something going. And like, so our parents come from this work. And I think that works for that generation. For our generation, you got to work hard, but tell me about how things have transitioned and how you're working smarter versus working harder.
Yeah, you got to work hard on the right things. So
on the right things.
What I'm always trying to do, and again, everything that I have is a regurgitation of what I've heard people that are further down the road than me. So I'm a fantastic mimicker, not that great as an inventor. So I love to mimic successful things that other people are doing. And
It's good awareness, dude. I think that's, like, everybody thinks they got to be this thought leader and has to be like leading the charge. It's like, you can take this information and then apply it to your own personal experiences.
Exactly.
And maybe you make a little bit of a tweak on it or make it unique to you. And that's okay, right? Like, you don't have to be Gandhi or whomever coming up with new ideas, new strategy all the time. If something works and it's a great concept, right? I think it's more important to be able to then decipher and differentiate between the good ideas and the bad ideas, right? Like, you don't need to necessarily, there's so much information out there. The real skill set is differentiating between, just because that rhymes doesn't mean it's an accurate statement. Like there's studies on that stuff that people think like things that rhyme are more concrete of values than things that don't rhyme. Like,
no, I don't
like
that sounds like woo-woo stuff.
yeah, but it's like a true, it's a true study. Not you are what you eat, but there's some like rhyming things like that.
It sticks.
And they say if it rhymes, then people think it's like more real than actually what it is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it more true. It just means it rhymes, right? But people give it more precedence because
I think it's because it has a song sequence to it, because I look at my 4-year-old and she comes in after she's at her Montessori school and she's singing these little tunes. And I realize all of these songs are built around numbers, letters, Spanish. And it is because the power of when you put notes behind information, you retain it longer and better. And so that I can see how the rhyming would make sense and why people take that as more factual. But as far as dang, you asked the question.
Jed just said if the glove don't fit, you must have quit, right? And so all of a sudden that became an actual, like, oh, well, that must be true, right? And then they friggin' acquitted this guy, right? And then he writes a book that it's called If I Did It, right? Like, how insane of a social experiment is that? So anyways.
So working hard. That was your question. Working hard.
Yeah. So talk about because dude, I've seen it in your business in just the past couple of years of how much smarter you seem to be working. And one of those things is developing your influence on social media. You got this group of 200,000 followers on,
so it's one to
Blue
many.
Collar Millionaire now. But like, because you went out and you focused on the marketing, and because you focused on working smart, working hard on the smart things to do, dude, look at this influence you've got now, where now if you need to go raise a business or raise money to buy a business, boom, you put out a post and all these people want to invest in you. If you want to buy a business, you put out a post and all these people send you businesses to buy, right? If you want to sell your business, you put out a post and all of a sudden you have all these people raising their hands saying, I want to buy businesses from you, or I want to pay you to coach me, or like all these different things that end up happening. And now you've got multiple 8, 9, 10-figure potential opportunities right in front of you that would have been a pipe dream 3 years ago.
I built a personal brand. The influence is the personal brand, and just like you have a business brand. And so I think the two biggest things that I've learned in the last 10 years, going back to those decades of learning in your life, in my 30s, I realized, and this is only in the last probably 24 months, is business is just a system. And so if I can understand that with my personal brand and understanding how the system works, then I just need to plug in the people to manage the systems. And so I'm always looking at how can I have the biggest impact with every moment of my time. So through social media, through YouTube, through any type of platform like that, I can talk to millions by talking in one moment instead of a one-on-one. When it comes to business, I can multiply my time by hiring employees, team members that go and do the work that I'm trying to achieve. I can cut time down by hiring the individuals that have the skill sets that I need. So I don't know Facebook marketing. I don't know a lot of different types of marketing, but I can go and get those individuals, and I know that. And then I ask them if you, because most people are like, well, I don't want to do the marketing and hire someone out because most of them take your money, you're wasting your money, and they never produce. Well, ask them, how do I know how to hold you accountable? What metrics are going to tell me that you're producing? And at the end of the day, if you're in business, it's the dollar amount. So did you get a phone call that might produce $1? And how am I going to track that this phone call came from your efforts? So just ask them questions. And when you start asking the questions, you'll get the information to know what information you need to track so that you can delegate. So understanding life as a system in every capacity. I got a morning routine. That's a system. I just told my team yesterday in the team meeting, I was like, if I get out of my morning routine, I'll walk out without deodorant. And about midday, I'm like, what the heck? So know everything in life is a system. And then when you understand that system, you can delegate that off. And then know that if you can get influence by building a personal brand, then you'll have endless opportunities. Those two things is what has allowed me to be able to start working smarter and less physical hard work.
I love it, man. I think it's like creating content is the highest and best use of my time, because just like you're doing it to source deals, source money, source buyers, source opportunity on the business side, I do the exact same thing on the real estate side. And it makes everything else easier, right? I think of my business kind of like I'm the fuel for multiple engines. And so I have Nick Burton, my chief marketing officer, as director of acquisitions. And the more content I create, he's the engine that runs all the acquisition side of things. Yeah. And so now we have more deal flow, right? Based on me creating more content. As far as raising capital, right? Fatty Bomitri really handles a lot of that for us. And so every time I talk about raising capital, I can be the fuel that feeds that engine of a bunch of capital raising, investors and money management and all those things. And then Matt Carlin, my COO, right? I'm the engine that then feeds, hey, I'm looking for like when COVID hit, we needed like, I think it was like 80 sets of appliances or something like that. And we couldn't find it anywhere. Everybody was out. I put it out on social media, had about a dozen people comment on it, and boom, within a week, we had all the appliances that we needed, right? Just like little things like that make his life easier on the operation side, because I can source material, supplies, staff. Like we've recruited some amazing team members through our social media presence, and people who, are willing to come and take a role that they can grow into, even though they might be overqualified for it, just because they want to be part of the team and part of our network and stuff. So it's really, really powerful what you can do once you have that personal brand, and where it can take you. And speaking of that, that's kind of how I'd like to wind this down, is like, what are your goals, man? Like, what is the next, we get together in January, February of 2026, a year from now, what are we celebrating? Like, what are the goals for this year? And where do you see Blue Collar Millionaire and some of your business stuff going over the next 36 to 60 months?
I want to see Blue Collar Millionaire producing enough income on the private coaching side so that that income starts to become our seed money to deploy into partnerships on business acquisitions, the home service based style Main Street businesses. I want my coaching to be the platform, that the vehicle that produces vets our operators that we partner with. I want my personal businesses that I'm involved, my core business, the cleaning and restoration, I want it to be growing 100%, more than 20% every single, really right now, I still want to see it hitting at least a 1X without me. And that way my team is benefiting from it. The culture is really strong because I get a lot from being a part of that culture and being the leader of that culture. And it's also my practice every single day to be able to come in and deliver great content inside of my groups, paid or free, because I'm out there practicing every day. And I think
I'm not talking about it, man. I'm actually in the
Exactly.
trenches, doing the work, building the business, speaking from experience as opposed to just something that, read out of a book.
Yeah. And then I want to see these businesses I'm a part of. The operators are so passionate. Most of these, it's their first business. I want to see them really taking some great headwind and getting some lift so that it's awesome to see them get excited, because you realize how far you are down the journey when you start to see what others' dreams are that haven't really gone as far as you have down the journey.
Insane, man. Yeah.
It's just really cool when you ask questions like, what's your number that you would exit your business with? And they're like, man, I don't really know. I've never really thought about it. It's still a little
when it gets
surreal.
good. Start dreaming again, kids.
Right. Yeah. And to sit there and be able to turn a dream factory back on because you're there helping expedite the time, because you're bringing your past knowledge and experiences and you're letting them borrow the belief. So a year from now, dude, I want to see be involved with more business acquisitions as a consultant type situation, owning some equity. I want to see the mastermind paying me so that I can take that money and dump it into new business acquisitions. And I want to see the current businesses thriving and growing. I don't know that I'll ever personally live off of the coaching. I want that to be that investment seed money. And then my businesses is what I'm living off of.
I love it, man. Well, dude, how can people connect with you regarding your Boardroom Elite private coaching and stuff?
Yeah. So go to bluecollarmillionaire.net. Bluecollarmillionaire.net. You'll see our podcast. You'll see our private coaching. You'll see the Facebook group. And
the Facebook group is free, right?
Free.
So people can plug in there, really get to connect with you guys in there. And then if they're ready to take things to the next level, Boardroom Elite would be the next one, right?
Exactly. And then we're doing private dinners. We're going out to different.
Dude, those look really cool.
Yeah, man. They're really kicking off. Kevin had that idea and started doing it. So we're seeing a ton of energy around that. And, 15, 20 folks around a dinner table for a few hours, paying a little money to get in there. So, it's elevated the level of people that's in there. And there's many different opportunities. So bluecollarmillionaire.net, would love to connect with anyone. And if you don't have any money right now and you're just trying to get a head up in life, go to the free group and use the search option for anything you're looking for: how to market, how to get leads, what business to start, who to do what. You're going to find it in that group.
I love it, man. Great actionable steps. So, dude, proud of you. It's been amazing to watch your journey over the past 4 years. And it's just super exciting to understand and conceptualize of where this is going to go over the next 4 years. Cause it's almost unfathomable. So appreciate you being here, brother.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your friendship.
Hey, well, thank you for being here. Hopefully you got a ton of great value out of this episode. We try to give as much free value as possible across all of our social media platforms. So please make sure that you're connected with us. We are at Legacy Wealth on YouTube. We are at Tim Bratz on all other social media platforms, and we're available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. The best way that you can support this podcast is by just subscribing to our YouTube channel, by liking the video, by commenting on it, and by sharing it with anyone else who might get some great value out of it. So thank you again for being here. We'll see you next Sunday on the Legacy Podcast.